All right. Hello, 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 everyone. Thank you so much for coming today to our wonderful edition of Couchbase Ask Me Anything. So today we have the distinct pleasure of having Babacar, who is a lead application developer at Kirschbaum. And so I just wanted to tell y'all a little bit about Babacar in his own words. He has a bio for us today. So again, Babacar is a software engineer and the lead application developer at Kirschbaum, as well as an AI enthusiast. So he's worked with a number of technologies on web and mobile platforms, and also with years of experience managing teams, he enjoys mentoring his fellow developers. So prior to joining Kirschbaum Development, Babacar was also the Chief Technology Officer, the CTO of a digital branding company in Madison, Wisconsin, where he led the development of pixel-perfect client-facing web applications. So thank you so much, Babacar, for
Thanks for
joining.
having me.
Of course. I appreciate you, and we're so grateful to have you today. All right, so let's see. Let's jump on in, if that's okay with you. Sound good?
Sure, Mr. Yes.
Cool. Love it. All right. So my first question for you is, I always think that it's really important for our community to learn more about your story. So how you got to where you are now and your journey into technology. So tell us about your story. How did you get started in tech?
So for me, since I was a little kid, I always knew I wanted to work in tech just because I was the kid that was trying to open up things, try to see how they're working inside. So you can find me with a screwdriver and laying all the pieces and on the ground and trying to know why and how it was working. And so fast forward that, I always knew tech was a big thing for me. And then next thing I know, that's what I learned in college. And then it was really hard at some point to know which section of tech I wanted to work in. So I did one thing really crazy, which is given I didn't know exactly what I wanted, I decided to focus on what I didn't want. So I started to look at things that I could just cross off that list, and eventually led me to being a software engineer.
And what were some of the things that you were like, all right, because a lot of people, they're going through their tech journeys and they're trying to figure out, what do I want to do in tech, right? It's such a vast space to be in. How did you
Yes, it
know
is.
where to pivot and what to look out for, what to not, what you weren't interested in? How'd you go about that?
So back in high school, there was a great website where they were putting, let's see, a day in a job of any profession. So I would just pick based on what I learned there,
Mm-hmm.
what I liked about a day in day job. I'm like, I don't like being in this. I don't think I like this condition of working. So that's exactly how I went through it, and it was crossing off, and it eventually led me to, I think, just three, and that's when I knew I wanted to do computer science.
That's amazing. Okay. So did you major in computer science when you were in school? Okay, yeah, got you.
Yeah, yeah.
Amazing.
That's
All
that's what
right.
I did at college, and then in system information, data,
Mhm.
yeah, and then software
Mhm.
engineering.
Wow. Did you do any internships when you were younger?
I started working since my second year in college, trying to get some projects. I did, I did again another crazy thing. Maybe
Yeah.
not so crazy. I open up any job board and try to read through the job description.
Yep.
I would find just I can meet one of the qualification out of the 20s. And I'm like, okay, let's keep going. And that's exactly how I went through it. I
Mhm.
would look at the job description and some of the qualification and technology they are using. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
this is the next thing I'm learning. This is the next thing I'm learning. So next thing
Wow.
I know, I'm now at two out of 20, three, and then maybe 5 out of 10 of the qualification. And then eventually someone would hire you. You don't need to have 10 out of 10. So that is your first
Exactly.
advice.
Ooh, that's perfect. And we're going to get into advice later on too. So this is great. Perfect. Okay. And then you talked about you had started working on projects, and I also know that you were involved in a little bit of open source too. But my question
Yes.
for you is, so what was one of the first projects that you built early on in your engineering career that you really loved, right? So either you loved it for its creativity or and its purpose, or maybe because of the
Mhm.
challenges that it threw while you were building it. So what was your favorite project during your early career, and why?
I would need to take this through, but
Please.
if I just take the last one, that would be it's because usually I just try to build a project that scratch my own itch. And eventually if it works for other people in my community in the world, then there you go. But at least I want to be my first customer. Um, so coming back to your question, I think if I had to think of a project I'm really proud of, that would be again a challenging one where I was building this how is it? Well, yeah, this multiplayer game. And we had a lot of issue deploying and making sure that the servers are scaling. So given it was over the network, when you join a room, that room shouldn't be too small, but shouldn't be too big too. So all the scaling that was going on, and of course, all of that was new for me at that time. So when we got that working, because especially at that time, the customer was starting to feel a little bit mad about us. So we got it working, and then yeah, all of a sudden we are cool together. So yeah, it was using, I think, yeah, how is it called again? Sleep. I can't remember that. I need to look it up later, but it's kind of like a snake game, but you play it with multiple people. I think it's pretty common for even now.
And what was it built in? Was there a particular language that you would use to build it?
Yes, I remember. If I remember correctly, the team was composed with a game developer and some
Yep.
others.
Yep.
He was I think he was working with Node.js, I believe, with some other language. I'm not sure, but
Got you.
the main application was running on Laravel. It
Yes.
has also another part with Node.js.
Okay, so Laravel, we see the tie here to where you are now.
Yes, yes.
So how in all of that, all of your experience and your experience not only early in your career, but also later in your career, how did you
Mhm.
even come across Couchbase, right? So like what intrigued you so much about our community and our offerings that made you want to spend time building with us?
So my first encounter with Couchbase was with CouchDB, actually. It was back in college. So I had a classmate that was doing a presentation. This great professor had the great idea of letting us go and find out about the other database in the world, not just MySQL or Postgres. So everyone could just take one database and come back and do a presentation, pros and cons. So that's my first initiation to CouchDB, which is not Couchbase, but still close. And then for work, we had people deciding, like the enterprise architect back then decided that we wanted a NoSQL solution, and that's how they proposed Couchbase. And given we had the Laravel project, and there was already an Eloquent driver for it. So for people that are not familiar with it, Eloquent driver would be just something that makes it more. It's kind of like an adapter that make it fit more into the Laravel ecosystem. So you necessarily don't feel like you are using Couchbase, Mongo, or MySQL. You're just using Laravel. So having the Eloquent driver was key to having a seamless development and be familiar with everything you've been doing in the ecosystem.
And that's super powerful because you're limiting the number of barriers to entry, right, for
Yes.
using Couchbase. And then for Laravel users who are like,
Yeah.
actually, I want something that fits really seamlessly with an environment and a language that I already know, right? So, and I know that you were also, right, you had mentioned that you are a lead on a lot of the development for our Laravel Couchbase. And for those who don't know, Laravel Couchbase is a model and a query builder with Couchbase specific support. So using the Laravel API. So what problem were you looking to solve with Laravel Couchbase, and how did you decide to use this?
So given we are using Couchbase as a database, and we know Laravel come built in with SQL database. So it would be MySQL, Postgres, and limited support for some others technology. But for Couchbase, there was none. So I came across one previous driver that was 5 years old. So I didn't build it from scratch. So, but there was already something there, but it was right. I was just checking the link now. It's been 5 years since the last update, and we need something that is up to date with the latest
That's
version of
right.
Laravel. So
Exactly.
the main work we did was to upgrade it to the newest syntax and add to it because Couchbase is evolving. Newer version means also you need to make sure that the Eloquent driver match that version. And it hit us to a point where I think we were working with Couchbase 6, and then we needed to do also another upgrade for Couchbase 7. I'm like, okay. So the package this time, even what we want with this package is at least for it to be up to date, not just let it there and sit. But even if you don't use Couchbase anymore, we would like at least to maintain development on that.
That's perfect. And so thinking about, like, you had mentioned that there was a older version that had not been updated in about 5 years. And so y'all wanted to have something that was both updated, that was regularly used, right, by the community as well.
Yes.
And building this, that's difficult work, right? That is
yeah, it took me a couple of weeks.
Exactly, a couple of weeks of hard development work.
And I'll be honest, I didn't love it. I was like, oh, I hate Couchbase.
It happens. I hope we prove to you that it's actually a really good process.
But but then all of a sudden when it was working, I'm like, oh, I love Couchbase.
Come on. Exactly. Yes, when everything is coming together, it's like, this is actually gorgeous. Like, this works. That's wonderful. Okay, perfect. So you built Laravel Couchbase in PHP. And is PHP your go-to programming language? Are there other languages and tools that you prefer to work with? And if so, what draws you to those languages and tools?
So I usually just pick the language as a tool. It depends on the paradigm you are working with. Yep. I don't go the other way around. I know we are all biased. You would prefer to work on Laravel because you like Laravel. So you're kind of not even listening to the project requirement. And you're like, okay, I know I will build it with Laravel. So what is important, I think, is to think of the project first. What are the different needs? And based on that, you would pick the language and then eventually the framework that comes with it. But for the last few years, I've been working mainly on PHP and Laravel. Doesn't mean that I only work on those, but it's just that it also helps to be specialized on something, to be an expert on a particular topic, because you can just take all languages.
Excellent.
So other than PHP, I also work with JavaScript. I already mentioned that. And over the past year, Python, even though now my Python is rusty.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Python for me is tried and true. I love working with Python. I haven't worked with it in like maybe 2 years. But when I was working with it, that's one of my favorite languages.
Yes.
Now, of course, I'm doing JavaScript. However, JavaScript, it allows, I think, and maybe people are going to disagree with me.
Yeah.
But JavaScript just allows you to just make a lot of different mistakes, right? You can do anything with JavaScript. And I that's also one of the reasons why I love TypeScript, because the strict typing, it keeps you, it gives you guardrails. It doesn't just let you, create a variable, and then that variable could be a string or a number or anything, like you can.
It can be anything.
Yeah.
Minus the compilation. I think I don't like compilation at all.
Yep, I'm 100% with you. That's funny. Okay, so I'd also love to know, like, as a developer yourself, right? So how do you push the boundaries and explore new technologies, right? So Couchbase was one of the technologies that you had not known about prior, and then you were like, this is actually an incredible technology that I want to use and I want to build off of. So how do you stay up to date with the latest trends and advancements in our field?
To be honest, it's not easy. There's always something new around the corner.
Right.
And if you just follow the conversation, you would think it is trending, that everyone is using it, but in reality, everyone is using Java and PHP to run all web servers. But I'm curious by nature, so I would try to keep up to date, not 100%, but at least from a distance. I would know what is going on, what are the different runtime or languages or frameworks that are now in here, and what people are building with it. And maybe I can find something interesting I can work on, or even join the trend. So after work, I just take 1 hour or less, digging in, going through social on YouTube and trying to see what the algorithm is recommending me. And then based on that, I would pick a couple of those, have a study plan, and to say, okay, this I want to be proficient. These are the things I will just keep following. And keep going. And I find also note taking for those particular things in general for work or for learning is really helpful because you can come back and revisit what you thought of something.
And what's something that you have like just used that process for example? Was there something new that that you're like, actually, I want to learn more about it? Artificial intelligence, massive right now, different, different technologies. Are you diving into it a little bit? Are you learning more about it, or any?
Yeah, definitely. Like if I had to pick, it would be crypto and AI in general.
Yep.
Just because I like what crypto is bringing to the table. I'm not sure about the implementation though, but I didn't pick any. It's no Bitcoin, no Ethereum, no Shiba Inu. It's just that the
Shiba Inu.
crypto. It's just the crypto itself. I think it's a good idea. I don't know where it will go. And yeah, the blockchain, of course. What kind of application you can build to have trust or something that is not easy to tamper with. Not impossible, but not easy to tamper with. But coming back to AI's topic, it's trending and we all see it. There's nothing you can do to avoid AI itself. All products are trying to add it to it just to stay relevant. But I feel like we are not going back to the basics with AI, because before AI, I think we need to focus a little bit more on data science. You can do a lot of things, prediction. It's not just that. And I would say it's the 101 before you even get into AI, machine learning, or even deep learning. So speaking of which, I had a small data set of, a pet project I have for the delivery system here, where I was trying to know, because people would just charge you something. It's not that based on the mileage or how long it took to get there. So I wanted to know what is the price based on those two things. I think because I would think if you're running a delivery service, you only need those two inputs, like how long it takes to get there, how many miles it is. I'm using miles, but in reality, my mind, I'm thinking in meters. So, so based on those two input, you just need to collect some data. That is the process I'm going. And if you think about it, this is the machine learning process. You would gather some data, you would clean it up. Once you clean it up, you have a training data set, and you would have something else you would put there as a testing data set. So that's exactly what I did there. And I was proud to have it plotted to do the cleanup, to remove any outliers there, and to finally find the coefficient and the equation for, at least for my formula. And then you plug it in, put it all back together. No API, no model being deployed. You just put it as a formula because it was a simpler one. And now all of a sudden you have a function that is somehow magical, where you just give it two inputs, and now it will give you the price, at least an estimation for it. So that itself is, I wouldn't consider it AI, but I think a lot of business would benefit from it without even thinking of the new and latest technology using a large language model or anything.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious when some people they they think of AI and they're like, oh, they look under the hood and there's like just a bunch of if-else statements. And it's like, no, that's not artificial intelligence. That's hilarious.
Sometimes it is.
It can be. But yeah, man, like I totally understand that. And have you worked with large language models yourself at all? Played with them, experimented, or how do you feel about large language models in general?
They're really powerful. I even was thinking of having another master where it would be around NLP, which means like I would be interested in large language model. But for now, I think the best way it would work for us is to have smaller models. It doesn't need to be limited to LLM, but smaller models that is doing something but really good. You see like now how ChatGPT is doing a lot of things, but my idea would be, I would have, let's say for my case, again, the example, I would have a model that is really good at predicting prices based on the mileage and the duration of the delivery. I would have another model that is doing something else, and then you combine it together with API, I don't know, with your custom logic, with code. I think that to me would be cheaper, would be more performant than your one model that is doing it all.
That part right there. Yes. And I love that you're thinking about, limiting the scope a bit as well.
Mhm.
So you had said having a much smaller model that's actually very focused and actually does something very well, rather
Yes.
than our large language models that do everything, or
Mhm.
can do everything. And then a lot of times we also find that they have a lot of hallucinations as well. So
Mhm.
they'll tell you what we like to call fibs, like that's not really true. If they give you a code sample, and then you actually, like, as a software engineer, both of us will be like, actually,
Yes.
that's
You're
wrong.
wrong. Yeah,
That's
you're wrong.
it's
You're
not
dead
correct.
wrong.
Yeah, you are very wrong. And so there's difficulties, and I would also love to see, like you had said, artificial intelligence being used in a very tailored, specific way
Yes.
to achieve a task and do it well repeatedly.
Yep.
Um,
Mhm.
um, and I think that's an entire space. I think that's something that we're missing in the field right now. A very,
Yeah.
like, here's something that does something very well.
Mhm.
Rather than, okay, we have this artificial intelligence using an LLM that is going to be able to
Mhm.
just everything, right? I think a lot of folk
Mhm.
are focused on creating another version of a human mind, right? That can think
Mhm.
through
Mhm.
all these things, but
Yeah.
actually let's scope that down a little bit and see
Yeah.
what we can achieve with that. So, 100%.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And recently, I feel like every other tutorial or blog post you're seeing, or video is at the end just a sell pitch. They're trying to sell you something. I mean, oh, let
Mhm.
me show you how to deploy. Oh, it's easy to get it started with AI. And if you look at it before the end of the video, I'm trying to walk you through and walk you in on platform where you are open signing up, of course, but they will brush it off like it's nothing. And once you sign up, you sign in, you just do something there, and now all of a sudden you are locked with that platform. You can't use anything else. And that to me is not AI. It's just
Mhm.
me using your platform.
Right, right. And I wonder, like, how both companies but also developers navigate that as well, because, for example, for open AI in itself, you are on their platform when you're using ChatGPT, and a lot of folk are paying specifically for ChatGPT, but there's also, I believe, like, lots of open source versions of artificial
Mhm.
intelligence as well, specifically the LLMs.
Yes.
um and so what ways can we then uh, uh, build models off of that information and then make it completely open rather than a more closed source version?
Mhm.
But things to navigate. Things
Yeah.
to navigate, my friend. Yeah, yeah, and that's fine. It's a part of the process.
It is, yeah. And even with that, I'm working right now on a
Mhm.
series of do it yourself. It's not
Oh.
DIY, but it's just trying to go back to the basic, because I think if you have it, you can navigate all technology new, or even something that you
Mhm.
never heard of. I mean,
Mhm.
if you have decent basis on how a database work, it doesn't matter if it is relational or not.
Right.
You know how to work with it. That's why also that's something I really like with SQL, where
Mhm.
coming back from the relational work, I didn't feel lost at all when I was using it. It's just, oh, it's really similar and it has its own syntax. So that also itself help and speed up my process while working on that project.
Yep. And that's perfect. And you already know, like, Couchbase as well has our SQL plus plus, which is our version of SQL. But it's actually,
Mm-hmm.
it's very it translates so easily to folk who already know SQL. And for folk who don't even know SQL, we also are, we have our own artificial intelligence, which is Capella IQ. And
Mm-hmm.
that allows, it teaches folk the syntax for how to
Yes.
create queries within Couchbase, SQL queries within Couchbase, SQL
Mm-hmm.
plus plus. And it'll teach you all of the skills that you need to know in order to learn a new querying language, which is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
there
it
are
is.
ways that both artificial intelligence can be used to educate people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And create platforms for education, which is, a massive long-term benefit of this huge field as
Mm-hmm.
well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think a lot of developers, sometimes they're scared of artificial intelligence. They're really afraid of,
Mm-hmm.
this field.
Mm-hmm.
And we completely understand it's brand new. Well, it's not necessarily brand new as well, right? It didn't just start off
Mm-hmm.
in
Right.
2022. It's actually
Right.
a much larger and longer conversation.
It's
It,
been
it
there.
really existed exactly for a number of years now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but once people start to learn some of the benefits, right, some of the tailored benefits that you can
Mm-hmm.
use, and the tools that you can build to learn more, right, I think that
Mm-hmm.
that is a massive win for folks. So 100%. I love
Yes.
that. Yeah. And I also saw that you're also interested in augmented reality and human and machine learning interaction, right? So what
Yes.
excites you specifically about those fields, and how do you see them shaping the future of software development?
When I was interested in that, we didn't have the Vision Pro from Apple,
Mm,
but
yes.
that was my vision of it, pun
Wow.
intended.
Yeah.
There was there was virtual reality and then augmented reality, and when I was trying to think in terms of practicality, I was like, I think augmented reality would be more suitable for our everyday use. Otherwise, if it is 100% virtual, you would be just sitting somewhere in your pod, again, reference to Matrix, and you would be traveling all around the world. I think having it work the other way around, where I don't know, maybe it's you by using a device that is allowing you to see more things, or using your phone or something else, or but augmented reality could make it work. Um, I was pretty excited with how the things that I was finding friends building and all around the community. I'm like, okay, but I never had the chance to work on it per se.
Hey, I completely get you. I think, I'm also really interested in augmented reality. I haven't built any tools yet. So when I do, I'll let you know. We can build
Please.
something together. We can like hold each other accountable.
Absolutely. I think
Yeah,
usually for any technology, what is happening is you just need a problem to fix, and
there
then
we
you would use it.
there we go. And that's actually what spurs a lot of both smaller projects that people are building, and also the companies that they build. It's problem focused, right? What problem do I as a developer, I as an engineer have right now, and how can I solve that? Let me build something. It could be quick, right? Or it could be this massive take on, but it's in an attempt to solve a particular problem. And that's what I'm seeing. I apologize for the noise outside.
No,
um
no worries.
but that's one of the reasons why a lot of this is built up. And it's great, and it's great work.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so thinking about like our larger state of both being engineers in this field and in technology in general, how do
Mhm.
you envision tech shaping our general future? What roles do engineers have in that transformation?
Mm. I think right now there's nothing you can do without tech. Just this week, I was talking with someone that is working in construction, and they have this massive department that is just doing IT work internally. And I'm like, but dude, you are doing construction. So just all of that to say that technology is here to stay. Um, and it doesn't matter if you are working directly with tech, like Couchbase or Kirschbaum, um, you will need tech eventually. Otherwise, you will no longer be relevant. So the role for engineers to me is to make sure the system are working, test it through thoughtfully. Um, just make it at least easy for people to navigate, to use. Because at the end of the day, even if it is machine, you're building an API or you're building a website, you need to remember it's for someone else to use. So a little bit of empathy going on there. But in terms of shaping, yeah, again, same advice around going back to the basic, because technology can evolve, but the theory behind won't.
Yes, making sure that we are constantly aware of the end user's experience, and
Mhm.
even not even using all the jargon, right? Like just people's experience using the very technology that we're building is
Mhm.
so vital. And it's something
It
that I'm
is.
really passionate about as well, right? Because we
Yeah.
want to make sure that we have access to the
Mhm.
very things that we build, and it's not
Mhm.
only accessible to those possibly quote unquote elite few of us,
Mhm.
but actually the larger general population, right? The senior citizen, right? Who
Mhm.
has not doesn't even want to touch a computer because they're just like,
Mhm.
this is a lot, this is too much. I didn't grow up with computers, I'm 70 years
Yes.
without computers. Like how I'm not trying to do this right now.
Mhm.
And we also want to be able to build for the up and coming generations of kids, right?
Mhm.
Or learning about new technology. A lot of them have tablets in their hands when they're
Yes.
4 or 5 years old, right? And they are just
Mhm.
updated with new technology. And so making sure that it is both safe and accessible for everyone is very vital.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Huge, huge, huge. I love that. Okay. Perfect. And then we already talked about artificial intelligence and we already talked about all that. So my other question for you is, do you feel like there are other technologies that are waiting to be fully realized and utilized, but you think that they're underutilized right now?
Right now, yeah. Other than data science itself, or because right now you don't need to use deep learning. It's still AI. Sometimes just data science can just get you there. Machine learning, but outside of AI itself, in terms of technology, again, it will really depend on the need or the person's use case. That's why it's always relevant for me or important to chat with a bunch of folks from different areas and different fields and try to see what are the different problems they are working with. And based on that, you would come up with a solution. So that's why it is called applied technology. So you are not just working with tech with it would be boring. You need to apply it in a field, and based on that, you can find really edge cases and use case that is helping people for the long run. And yeah, it's coming back to this conversation about impact, because maybe they don't know it. So IoT would be my second guess too, because connected, yeah, I mean, that's how Apple is getting us all with the ecosystem. You have your AirPods Pro that are connected and working seamlessly with your phone and your Mac. So now all of a sudden you prefer your Apple product other than your Samsung or your something else.
Oh, there's so much to say there. Yes. All of that. Both, thinking about the problems-based solutions that we're cultivating, and also understanding the impact of the preferences that we have, and how did those preferences come about, right? Taking control of a market, possibly, and then, everyone now has a particular preference, which, I'll leave it there, actually. I'll leave it there.
Cross-pollination, yes, is the word.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, I love it. I would also love to know, so how do you approach problem solving and tackling complex challenges in your development projects? So diving into, how you develop.
Okay. So it depends. Usually, if it is as simple or something that I wouldn't say easy, but simple, but something that I already did in the past, I can do it while listening to music, which means I'm familiar with that issue. But usually in terms of problem solving, I would try to think of an easy way to get me there. It doesn't need to be perfect, but at least a working solution. And then I can iterate over it to make it better again and again. It won't be perfect, but I believe through iteration, we can have the best at that time.
And I think that's really sage advice. And for everyone, we've moved into our advice section of the interview, advice and guidance section. But I think that's also so sage, because I think, when people, sometimes when engineers are coming to a problem, right, they see the big problem and they're like, all right, I have to do every single thing to fix this massive problem. Instead of thinking about, let me take a step back, let me actually address what is the minimal viable product, right? The MVP that I need to achieve in order to solve some semblance of this issue, right? So, and we were talking about earlier, this problems-based approach to development. But thinking about, let me break it down. Let me, what's the smallest nugget, right, that I can achieve that moves me forward and towards this larger issue and addressing this larger issue. But first, get that MVP down, right? Get the minimum requirements down, and after that, we can add features after that.
Yep. So I would just take a problem and say, okay, this is what I want to do. I would try to break it down in steps, and every step that I would just say, okay, what do I need? And it would be all in text, no algorithm, no program, no C, no PHP, nothing. It's just in plain text, easy to read, easy to explain to someone else. And from that, the algorithm will follow, and then of course the program too.
Boom. See, and folk also forget about that as well. The importance. So that's what I call pseudocode. So writing out your pseudocode first in just plain text, plain whatever your language you're speaking, you speak to yourself on a daily, whatever that language is, write it in that language. Just the problem statement, or what you want this little piece of code that you will eventually write, what you want that to look like or to do. And writing it all out first. So don't just jump in and be like, okay, I'm about to code in JavaScript or TypeScript or Python or what have you. First of all, write it all out in your plain language. And then from there, once you have the entire problem statement, then you can actually start creating the functions, etc. Yeah, great approach. Great approach. I love it. All right. And also, you know, in the advice column, you know, sometimes engineers have, we're very well known as people who cannot communicate. So my question for you is, how do you effectively communicate and collaborate with your teammates or even your clients?
I would start with empathy, because you need to be able to read people.
Thank you.
And also, especially because we don't necessarily share the same values or culture. So being able to read people, based on that, I think you'll be able to work with them. So that is the beginning, because client, colleagues, the company, yourself, you might not share all of that in common. It's great if you do, but it's not always the case. And it's very rarely the case. In terms of communication, that is right. We have this really bad press of us not being good at communication, geeks in general. But I would argue that other way around, just because our problem, the very nature of the problem we are solving is difficult. You need to understand it first using words. You need to be able to translate it to be able to at least have this message understood by every party involved. And that itself, to me, is the hardest part. Because if it is just writing a program that is doing XYZ, everyone can do it. So communication is a big thing. You cannot just put it there and forget about it. You need to work on it. I'm still working on mine. So
huge. All right, huge. Yeah, that communication piece. And I love how you started that conversation off by saying you need to hone in on empathy first and foremost. You know, I think that is absolutely key. You need to, you know, I like to take my ego out of conversations that I'm having.
oh,
not
yeah,
just
definitely.
Exactly, right? It's so vital.
You can't have ego now.
You cannot have ego, right?
No.
Like, oh, you know, this is my code, and I think that we should, you know, develop this way. You know, we should move forward in this particular thing, and I'm not going to be flexible in any way. Take the ego out, right?
Yeah.
Take your ego out of the conversation, and then you can actually have a conversation, right? It's no longer about you and your wants, but actually the wants and needs of the team and of the company and of our collective. It doesn't even have to be team or company, collective and community, right? That we're trying to move forward. What is our mission, right?
Yes.
What is guiding us forward? How do we focus and center that? That way we can all work together in order to make sure we're achieving that. So
yeah.
Yes.
I think in general, we like to have debates. Like, you like React, I like Vue. Now I need to say React sucks. Or I need to say Vue is best because this and that. But in reality, if it is just solving my problem, why not just let me be? That being said, also being open to change, because otherwise we'll be just saying, okay, I'll be doing Vue for the rest of my life. Of course, the new framework. So empathy, yeah. I don't know if I would have a general advice, because I know I'm good at reading people, so maybe I might be doing that naturally without thinking about it. But yeah, definitely opening your eyes, opening your ears, and ask questions, not assume anything. And keep working on it.
Okay. Yes. 100% ask questions. And I also know a lot of us are afraid, right? To feel dumb, to feel stupid, like we are not knowledgeable. And especially as we grow into more senior roles, you know, you become a senior or a team lead or a staff. people are coming to you with questions, right? People are looking to you and they're like, you have all the answers. And actually, it's actually very, very powerful, right? It's very powerful for you to be honest to folks when you don't have all the answers, right? When you're like, actually, most of the times when I ask staff engineers, they're like, it depends.
It depends.
That's such a quintessential answer, and that's so perfect because it's so true, right? So you take into the consideration, these various things, and you're not just right. Like, if this particular issue could be solved with X if you need to do Y, but if you need to do Z, then you should probably think about this other approach as well. But just being honest about what what you don't know, asking questions, and knowing that asking questions, especially in tech, is going to be a lifelong skill that you need to continue to hone, right? And you need to continue to practice. No one knows everything. No one.
Nope. I'm still looking for answers.
Thank you. Even those who've been in this field for 25 plus years, no one knows the answers, right? And especially because tech continues to evolve, right? When I like to talk about the hidden figures sometimes. So the hidden figures, some of the Black women who were working at NASA back in the day, they would code on these place cards. It wasn't on computers. Computers were ridiculously expensive, and they servers took up the entire room. And so they would code on place cards, and they would hand it to someone to transcribe it. That is vastly different to how we code now. So always understanding that your learning process, your questions process is going to be continual. Yes, I hear you. And I agree.
Yeah, definitely. Ego can be part of the conversation. That is not possible at all, especially if you're working with multiple people, or again, like you said, like they're expecting guidance from you. So you can try to impose your opinions or ways of doing it. I like to think, if I'm not able to convince you that this is the way to do it, I might be wrong maybe. So I won't try to, and I need to revisit and try to hear you out.
And so how do you navigate that at Kirschbaum? I know since you're a lead developer yourself, how are you navigating, all of that process?
So I'll just give you one last scenario that happened. One scenario I can remember at least. Well, we were on a team and having a discussion around tech, and it was just one ticket, so something not that influential, but the team was feeling a certain type of way, and I was like, no, this is not the way to go. But they didn't seem to think that way. So I had two choices at that point. I can either say, hey, I'm the team lead, you need to just listen to what I'm saying here, or wait it out and see if they will eventually be wrong, or if it is the good thing, but at least monitor it in a sense that I'm not letting them waiting at the corner to say, hey, I told you so. I won't be doing that. It's not that petty, but it's in a sense trying to see what the other people is saying, hear them out, understand their point of view, and now come back with a counter argument if there is any.
I love that. So learning process, like you had mentioned, taking ego out of it and saying, you know what, like maybe I am wrong in this case.
Maybe.
And I'm willing I'm very, very much willing to take a seat and to learn, let's try it their way. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. If it does work, that's okay. No matter the outcome, we're doing this process together, and we are a team, right? At the end of the day, we are a team. We are a unified team, and we stand with each other. So 100%.
Win together or lose together.
Come on. That's what I talk about. I've heard this concept, and it's really lovely. So now I'm a developer evangelist under the marketing vertical, but before I was in developer evangelism, I was just software engineer under the engineering vertical. And so back in the day, we would say, even if some code went up to production and broke prod, we break prod together as a team. It's not just one engineer who has made that.
It's not just the
Thank you. Exactly. It's an entire team process. We're going to learn from it. We're going to hopefully make sure it doesn't happen again, but it's also okay that it did happen. So we're learning together, and this is a growing experience for us. And that's the kind of environment that I'm so glad that you're able to cultivate at Kirschbaum as well. So kudos. Okay. I have a couple more questions for you. So one of those questions is, what do you feel are the key qualities and skills that differentiate an exceptional developer from an average developer?
Hmm. Yeah, problem solving will definitely be something. Communication, how they express themselves. Are they able to understand, learn quick? But mainly also, are they able to learn? Learning is a skill. You need to be able to learn something and how to learn it, which question you need to ask. How do you perform in an environment where you're totally not familiar with? How do you process with it? And it comes back to the problem solving aspect of it. But I would say if I had to pick only two, it would be problem solving and communication.
Problem solving and communication. See, that's really interesting. And I ask this question because I think a lot of times folk are really, really impressed by what they call the quote unquote engineering genius, right? The 10x developer, the person who can do things quick and be unapologetic, just break stuff, and you'd be like, you know what, it's fine, whatever, break stuff, move fast. That,
Yes.
the 10x idea. And I really want to also highlight and hone in on the different ways that excellence is defined in different groups, right? So, VCs, they love a genius developer. They give them all the millions. I don't understand why. What does genius actually mean here? But that's a whole nother conversation. But when you had mentioned that communication is very important and problem solving skills, right, is very important as well. And you had also mentioned like the ability to learn, right?
Yeah.
So, throwing your ego out the door, learning and growing is something that you think is very important. You should, some people, they come in and they think they know everything. That person might not be the best person to continue to learn and grow, right? So
especially in tech where it is moving so fast.
Say it again.
Especially in tech where it's moving so fast.
Yes. You need to be flexible. That is a key to being an engineer in tech. So I absolutely get it, and I love and appreciate that you are highlighting that those are some qualities and skills that you really value on your team.
Coming back to the 10x conversation, average to very good or genius programmer. If I had to add one more, it would be attention to detail. Yes, because when we talk about having a solution working and iterate on it, sometimes people would take shortcuts. You'd say, okay, it's not the best solution. I know it already, but it's working, what can you say? So attention to detail would now, and also how accountable you are to this. Okay, now you ship this solution that is not the best one, but now what do you do about it? Do you let it sit there and do something else, or do you wanna do this 1 or 0.1% improvement on it?
Right.
And are you thinking about the edge cases? Are you thinking about something that we didn't think about? And that to me is what's separating average to genius developers.
I love that. I love that. The willingness to come back to code, to iterate on code, to improve code, right? Not just, ship the MVP, which is fine, it's working. But the willingness to come back and to have an honest conversation about, the state of what it's in now, how we can improve it. Tech debt is what folk often talk about. Exactly. That's huge. That's huge. I love that. All right. So my next question, we just have a few more questions left. My next question is for all maybe the junior people who are listening to this conversation, right? So my question is, what advice would you give to aspiring developers? So so junior and those who are aspiring to even, come into development, who are just starting they're just starting their journey, either with Couchbase or Kirschbaum or learning Laravel, PHP, all that.
Aspiring developers, I think I had a few bullet points somewhere because this is a conversation that is always happening. People will come to you and ask you, okay, what do they need to learn, how they need to approach their journey in general. But I would say take it easy, take it one step at a time. We didn't learn all these. We didn't have 10 years of experience just out of nowhere. We didn't, it didn't start that way. We didn't learn Laravel before PHP. Now it's the other way around. We learn PHP first. And even with PHP, maybe we learn HTML and CSS first. And even after that, maybe we learn JavaScript and then Vue and maybe React. So it's not, you don't need to force yourself on to learn all those technology within the 10 next months, like the bootcamps are picturing it. Take it one step at a time. Don't need to be an expert, but at least you will know enough to work with that technology, and then based on what you want to be expert in, then you can move it forward and try to go more in depth. That's how I would approach any technology or learning anything, any field. It doesn't just stop at technology, but science in general.
That's so salient. Yes. Take it slow, right? Take a moment, take pause. Don't feel like, that you have to learn 6 languages in 2 months, right? Don't do that. And also, I would also say, like, be patient with yourself. And that's something that you had talked about as well. And like, be proud of yourself too, right? Learning these languages is just like learning actual verbal human languages, or not just verbal, but all these various languages that humans have, and animals, and in general, right? It's a process. You know, we didn't learn the languages that we speak in 2 months, right? We're not 2 months old being fluent in a particular language. That's not how it works. We that right first, right?
that.
You have to stumble, right? You have to grow in this. You have to learn sentence structure, and that's okay if it takes time. That's so okay if it takes time. And it will take time, and to know that it will take time, right? So excellent. Yo, Babacar, you are out here with the words of advice. I love it. And on that part as well. So what is your favorite learning resource that you've used in the past?
To this day, still Googling. I would just go Google it. And from there, I don't think I have any particular resource, because over time I would change. I would try to go in depth in any subject that I have interest in, but after that I like to just circle back a little bit, take a few steps, and see what did I miss maybe. And that's why I like to change resources. I don't know, I could take any of these, let's say Laracast, which is one platform to learn Laravel. I can go there and watch a series from another about what particular, I don't know, topic. And I can go back and watch it from a different author just to see how they would approach or depict something. Or even watch the beginner level tutorials. Try to see what that 10% or 1% that I didn't know from that beginner, so-called beginner tutorial, and see now how can I add that 1% to my knowledge. But it's usually just Googling, knowing how to use Google, because it's a tool. It's more powerful than we think. Might be more in general, not just Googling, but how to ask questions. This is what I'm trying to do. But now, how do you ask? How do you get there? Again, it's come back to the steps. Break it down to smaller chunk, where it is a smaller subset of problem you're working with. And once you solve it, you can now go a level up and try to solve the bigger problem.
So important. So important. And currently I'm working with some engineers who are, new to the field, and they're learning. And a large issue that they've been coming up with is that they tell me, I don't even know how to ask the question. So they just they point to stuff. And I'm like, that's okay. Breathe. That's okay. Not knowing how to ask the question is a part of this learning process. The language, right? So you're talking about, knowing how to use Google to get your answer, knowing what to put in to get what you're looking for, is really, really, it's a part of that learning journey. So huge. All right. So one of the second to last question I have for you is, what are some exciting projects or initiatives that you're currently working on or that you're planning on working on in the future?
Let's see. IoT, just because
Yes. Internet of Things.
I, I took my I had my bike for 2 weeks where I was just trying to install the GPS myself. And
Wow.
that is different from being on a computer and doing some programming.
Yep.
I also bought an Arduino kit where I'm like, okay, let's see how this electronic part working.
Yeah.
So I would say IoT has been for many years one of my side project, and I would really like to have the time to dedicate to it and work on it. It can be even deploying a 100% intelligent field that is doing that. Know the soil needs water and do everything it needs to do. Having multiple sensor that is knowing, okay, we are getting enough sun from this angle. Now we need to turn it because it's time of the day or this time of the year. So IoT would be one of the bigger projects I want to tackle eventually. I wouldn't say AI for now, just because I don't have any problem to solve yet. It's coming back to the use case. It's on a case by case. I need to have a problem that I can dedicate a solution to go there. But yeah, IoT, but in terms of software engineering, I think looking more at the different protocol that exist. Recently new, I think RTSP, TUS protocol, which is for resumable file upload. I didn't even know that thing existed, and it is working over HTTP. So things like that, looking at the different protocols, not just FTP, SSH, and HTTP, but some other protocol that are here and that can work in tandem with web.
Okay, come through. That's so exciting. I love it. All right, my friend. Well, those were all the questions that I have for you. My last one for you would be, where can people find you online if they want to follow you, if they want to learn more about your journey, if they want to talk to you? How can they get in contact with you?
I'm active on Twitter as Babacar Cissé Dia, like my whole name. I'm also available. I have a website where I'm trying to put together all my resources. It's mostly sharing my journey and
Yes.
sharing also whatever I learn. It's mostly not to self. So let's say I'm working with Couchbase and all the challenges I encounter while doing that, I would have it documented somewhere so I can come back to it. And of
Beautiful.
course, share it with the world if they need to. I would say check us out at kirschbaum.development.com. We are available there, and we're always looking for talented people to hire.
Okay, you say that, the ears perk up too. Again. All right, y'all. Well, y'all heard it here first. The wonderful Babacar Cissé Dia has joined us. Thank you so much, Babacar. It has been an absolute joy and an absolute pleasure to get to know you and to learn about your journey, your work with Laravel Couchbase, as well as your work at Kirschbaum. Like, it has been massive. So we're so grateful. Everyone, if you're interested in following Babacar, please do reach out to him on Twitter or his website or Kirschbaum developer website as well. And of course, please do follow us here at Couchbase as well. We're going to have more of these Ask Me Anythings. Y'all have asked for them, and we are providing them. We're doing what y'all are looking for. So we're going to have a couple more guests coming up in the next few months. And please feel free to follow me as well at Nyah Macklin Dev on Twitter. And Couchbase developers. You can find us on our website and then join our Discord. So thank you so much, Babacar. It's been an absolute joy, and we will chat soon. You already know that.
Yes. Thank you, Nyah. Thanks for having me.
Of course. All right. See you soon. Bye, y'all.
See you. Bye. Bye.